Okay, let's talk about how to get rich in your early 20s. So, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Liam O'Hare. I'm 24 years old and I live here in Australia. So, just a preface, because some of you might be thinking, like, who is this guy to really educate us on what's the best business model and what is the best way to make money online? Well, okay, this was me just over 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago. And fast forward 2.5 years later, this is now me. I'm able to travel the world, make over six figures, make over multi six figures in my own personal income and pure profit, working directly from my laptop. I've been able to do so by traveling the world. This is me in Koh Samui, Thailand. This is me in Bangkok. And it's a good life, right? So, we're going to be going through the best businesses to start in your 20s to get rich. So we're going to be going through agency, dropshipping, affiliate marketing, content creator, and what we call B2C middleman, so business to consumer, aka remote sales. And that's what I do. Okay. So first things first is agency. Okay. So should you start an agency? Now, of course, there are pros to running an agency, but they're really taught and set up in a way where you just won't be successful. The reason being is because you need to have years of work to fulfill to clients. Okay. So when that comes to marketing, sales, building funnels, websites, leading a team, there's so many skills that are involved in running an agency alone. You need to have years accumulated worth of skills in order to have a successful business in the agency space. And that leads into you need to hire a team if you want to scale. If you want to scale past 5, 10, 10K a month to like 50K a month, you need to have a team. And that's going to require you marketing yourself in the right way, presenting yourself in the right way, and being a leader. And if you're in your early 20s, you probably don't have this skill set right now. Another thing as well is clients are always churning. Okay. Now, this is me and my ex business partner when we had our agency. And this is when we signed one of our first clients. I believe we signed this client here on this day for about $7,500. It was in when we signed this client. It's the same room I'm filming this video in right now. And that sort of leads to like no life as well, because about a month or two later, I went overseas, or I traveled with my partner, and rather than taking some time for me and my partner, I had to work and fulfill work for the client that we signed. And that really just leads into like heavy overheads as well. It's just like you're paying for all these resources with nothing in return. Then you fulfill for a client and they don't pay you, which is, in retrospect, what happened to me and my business partner. So with agency, can you make it work? You can, but it's not a great business model to start out in. It's really just set up and designed in a way where it looks attractive to beginners, and all you do is start and you fail without having the right skills. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Dropshipping. So another business model I've done, as you can see, this was one of the months I did $23,000 in revenue in 30 days. I've had months where I've done like 30, 35K as well. But for this matter, we've got this screenshot for 23K. Now, the issue with dropshipping that a lot of gurus lie to people about is it doesn't require nothing to start unless you want to do it the cheap and broke way. You need massive amounts of capital to start and be successful. I had like 10K and it was gone right away because I was spending money in ads and products. So you need massive amounts of capital to start. And that leads us into you're very prone to losing money on outdated products, which also leads into always changing products. You work with one product, you see a bit of success, all of a sudden there's 50 other people selling the same product and you need to change products, right? And there's also a lot of issues with manufacturers. And on the flip side of that as well, it's low margins. You're working with like 10 to 30% profit margins. So you're doing all this work just to get paid a little penny. Now, is dropshipping a great model? Or is it a good model? Yes, it is. Like, I've personally made money on it. But there's a reason I no longer do this business model. It's just not sustainable. And, there's just a lot of moving components that go into it that just really, there's just too many cons in it for me personally, in my opinion. And if you're a beginner, it's not a good place to start if you don't have much money as well. Now that leads us into affiliate marketing. So this should just be a no-brainer. This is most definitely the worst business model out of every single one we're going through today. You have no control over the business. You know, you're promoting other people's products. So what happens if the person can't fulfill on products? There's just no control and no leverage, and there's just no fulfillment behind doing affiliate marketing. You know, you're just commoditized next to the other a million creators in the world. So because you don't really bring any value apart from maybe having a following, because you have to build a following to do this as well, you're just viewed as commoditized. You're another number in the system for people selling their products. And that sort of leads us into your selling your soul, because you see affiliate marketers do this all the time. You know, you have men, you have masculine men selling candles and socks just to make a few dollars online. That, my friend, is selling your soul. Why would you want to sell a product that doesn't align with who you are, right? So there's just no way you should be doing this business model. You just shouldn't be doing this. That leads us into content creator. Now, content creator does go hand in hand with affiliate marketing. However, like proper just being a content creator, like a streamer or a YouTuber, I feel like this is one of the better options. However, it's quite confronting for a lot of people because they're just putting their face in the public eye. And I was personally a content creator. As you can see, I have just under 30,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. I used to do gaming content before I got into business and sales. Now, with content creation, it's great to build connections. I've met YouTubers from Australia with over 10 million subscribers from actually doing YouTube. So look, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic way to build connections. But we're here to make money. And that leads us into this, that ad revenue doesn't pay much. Like, it really doesn't. It depends like what you consider a lot of money. When I was 17 years old, I was making 6 to 8K a month, which is pretty good for a 17-year-old. But if you're in your early 20s, you want to get rich. You're not wanting to play small and make 6 to 8K a month. And you can make more. However, for example, this video with 3.9 million views, I believe it was like $40,000 to $50,000 in profit I made, which was fantastic. Don't get me wrong, right? But when you're doing so much work, and that sort of leads into this, there's a flip side as well, of course, right? There's pros and cons. The cons with this is it took me like 4 or 5 years to even build up to a point where I could make this money. So imagine doing a 4-year apprenticeship and not getting paid $1. And then in return, it starts hitting at once. Massive compounding effect, which is good. But this can lead to a lot of creators doing brand deals unethically. And you see this all the time. People selling, crypto scams, people selling all bunch of sorts of BS, right? So you don't want to be unethical in the practices you do online. You don't want a bad reputation. That's the last thing you want, right? Because the online space is very small. And that leads us into our last business model here, which I call a B2C middleman, also known as remote sales. Now, am I biased with this because I do this on a day-to-day basis? Absolutely. Right? There's a reason I do this opposed to all the other business models that people try to sell. As a B2C middleman, there's no startup costs with marketing, etc. You're not paying for products, you're not hiring a team, you don't have to pay for marketing. So it's very, very low startup costs unless you're trying to get coaching and training to do so and get into the industry. The great thing is you can start making 6 figures yearly in pure profit within the first 3 to 6 months. And this might sound like a bold claim, but for me, it was a reality. I started making over 10K a month within my first 4 months of being a B2C middleman. Okay. The next thing is you become well connected with multi-7 and multi-8 figure business owners and entrepreneurs. So it's fantastic because as a B2C middleman, you're providing pure value to a already successful business owner. So this is a great way to build up your connections and network and become known in the space of what we call the online money space. The other flip side, because you're so well connected with these multi-7 and multi-8 figure business owners, you actually learn how to run $1 million business per year. Now, do you have to do this? No, like there's no expenses around this, but you see the day-to-day operations, you see the daily operations that goes into having a successful business. So before even starting your own business, becoming a B2C middleman, you're learning the daily practices on what it takes to really be a successful entrepreneur. rather than trying to do a bunch of BS yourself and wasting heaps of money, being disheartened and quitting and throwing in the towel. So that's a fantastic trade I've noticed as well. Now, the next thing is it's pure profit. There's no fulfillment as well. You're not paying to speak to people and close people. It's just pure profit. And after you've made the profit, there's no fulfillment for any clients. The company, the business owner, they take care of that, right? The next thing is you work from wherever you want and you work on your schedule. So it really does provide pure location and just financial freedom. It is quite life-changing, to be completely real with you. Like I've had months where I've made over 20K and I've worked like 40 hours for the whole month. So it's very good. And with that being said, of course, there's a lot of hurdles when you first get started in terms of having a skill set to do so. It's not all sunshines and rainbows. I'm not saying that at all. It does take work to become good at the skill to do this and make a good amount of money. But the last thing we have here, very much like learning how to run a business, you get the perks of running your own business without the responsibilities. So what I mean by that is you have the perks, as in you have the financial freedom, you can make a lot of money, and you just don't have the responsibilities of overheads, paying massive amounts of tax for the businesses, dealing with marketing, dealing with clients. Like none of those responsibilities comes with what we do as a B2C middleman. All you do is shop and talk to people, and you talk to them about what you sell. Once they pay, you get paid commissions. So typically, if you get paid 10% commissions. And let's say, for example, you sell a $10,000 package, you get $1,000 per deal or per person you sign up to the program. And you might be thinking right now, is this a pyramid scam? No, it's not. It's really not. It's just when people come to a company looking for help around a particular skill, whether they want to have help with like an online fitness coach, whether they want to learn how to make money online from someone selling how to make money online businesses, they come to you, they come to that business owner from the marketing. They talk to you, you talk to them, you sign them up to the program, and you get paid commission. Simple as that. Now, fast forward 2.5 years later from when I was a carpenter, I've been able to travel the world and work from my laptop and make multi-six figures per year. Okay, and this is living proof that it's just reality. Okay, and you're probably thinking like, would this even work for me? Well, my question is for you, my friend, is can you speak English? Because if you can speak English and conversate, you can more than definitely do this, as long as you're determined to actually do this. And you might even be thinking, I'm introverted, not extroverted. Well, I was introverted as well. I'm not the most extroverted person, and you don't have to be. Some of the best salespeople I've seen in this space are the more introverted people. Now, I do have more videos on my channel explaining exactly how to get started as a BDC middleman. It's also known as remote sales or high ticket closing. But essentially what you are is just a B2C, so a business or consumer middleman. So if you feel like you want help and if you're interested in this, you can go ahead and apply to work one-on-one with me in the description of this video. I do have more videos as well throughout my channel, so feel free to check them out. But yeah, if you do truly want to get rich in your 20s, cut out the BS, cut out the noise. There's too much shiny object in space, and you need to learn the one skill that makes everyone money. Okay? So I'll talk to you soon.